Congratulations to all the other inductees today. It's kind of poetic that Denny and I are going in at the same time, given the number of years that we spent working together to try to put San Diego water polo on the map. Water polo gives you memories, life lessons, and friendships that last a lifetime. I've always felt that those of us who benefit from that have an obligation to give back to the game. And that's really what I've tried to do over the time from when I quit playing to when to now, you know. Mainly for me, it's been as a referee, but also doing administrative work. I think all of the other inductees would agree that nobody gets to stand up here without a lot of help from a lot of people. And those people, in many cases, are people who were giving back to the game. And so I want to talk just a little bit about the people that helped me stand up here. In 1963, I was a junior in high school. There was no water polo in the San Joaquin Valley. But my high school, Mount Whitney, and 3 others that year decided to start a program. And it's grown from there to what it's like up there in the valley now. The first time I jumped into the ball with a pool, sorry. It was a Voigt, by the way, for those of you that are old enough to remember what that's like. I fell in love with it right away. I'd been a competitive swimmer, but staring at a line at the bottom of the pool for hours requires an infinite capacity for boredom that I didn't have. Throwing a ball around, shooting, scoring goals, wrestling for position, that was a blast. And I just fell in love with it right away. There was a picture shown of that first team. You couldn't see everybody in it. But if we have any Bellarmine people here or people who used to play against Bellarmine, one of my teammates on that very first team was Larry Rogers. And it's kind of remarkable. He certainly had a career that was worthy of induction into the Hall of Fame also. It's kind of ironic that 2 first-year players on a first-year team in the first year that water polo was offered in the area ended up having long careers like that in the sport. After high school, I went to the College of the Sequoias, the local junior college. I wanted to knock off my general studies requirements cheaply and swim and play water polo with my friends. So the coach there is named John Bricker. That name may ring a bell for some people. One of his sons, Walter, was a national team player in the 70s, played at Cal. His daughter, Erica, was an Olympic swimmer in '64, a teammate of Sandy Nita's. I believe, other than my parents, nobody had a bigger influence on my life than John. John also, in addition to coaching aquatics, was a history teacher. And the social science department would have staff meetings sometimes, about every other week, and they were always on Thursday afternoons in the middle of our practices. So what John would do, he had to go to these meetings, he would hand me the whistle, and he would hand me the flags, so run a scrimmage for me until I get back. I can't imagine anyone in today's environment doing something like that, but that's what he did. And I figured, okay, I'm going to get a lot of grief from these guys. But I didn't. It seemed to go pretty well. I was kind of a rules nerd, so I knew the rules. And he would come back. Sometimes he wouldn't stop me right away. He would just kind of watch what I was doing. So when I finished up there, I was waiting to transfer up to Stanford, and he approached me, said, I'm having a tournament this weekend coming up. I got 3 or 4 teams coming in, and I need another referee. And I really think you can do this. So I did. And it worked out pretty good. One of the teams that came was Mount San Antonio College, which is just over the hill from where we are now. The coach there at the time was a fellow named Roy Wilkes. And Roy could get pretty excited about refereeing, but he was very supportive. He had lots of positive comments to make. So I thought, well, I kind of like doing this, and maybe I'll continue to do it. I played 1 year at Stanford on what was probably the weakest Stanford team of the last 75 years. Barely got a letter. Bunch of new guys coming in the next year, and I figured, that's it. I'm probably not going to even make the team. I'm going to try reffing. I made a cold call to John Felix. Called him at home, told him who I was, told him about my background, asked if I could do some reffing. He could have blown me off. He doesn't know me from Adam, but he invited me to come over to Los Altos High School and referee his team's scrimmage. So I did. It went pretty well. I ended up with about a dozen college water polo games in the first year. I then went to San Diego, got a hold of a fellow named Dick Draz, the only name in San Diego I knew, who's also a Hall of Fame member. He got me linked up with the officials there. At the time, water polo in the San Diego area was nothing like it is today. The high school teams couldn't compete with the mid-level teams in Orange County. The referees were relatively inexperienced. I remember 1 year USC came down to play a doubleheader against UC San Diego and San Diego State. They agreed to come only if they could bring a referee from up here. So I thought, we can do better than this. And I sort of been thinking I'd like to start coming up to this area and see if I can climb the ladder of referee rankings. And I knew one name to get a hold of, and that was Bill Frady. And I went to a game that he was reffing, introduced myself. And I have to say, over the last 60 years, there have probably been something like 75 referees certified to do international competition in the United States. I've known every one of them. I've worked across the deck from all but 4 or 5 of them. Bill Frady is the man. He's, in my opinion, the best referee this country ever had. And it's not just because of his technical skills as a referee. His understanding of the game, the philosophy of officiating, best teacher of referees that I ever encountered, and always willing to share knowledge. It was mentioned there, I've trained hundreds of referees. 75% of what I do when I train referees, I stole it from Bill. And if it weren't for Bill, I wouldn't be standing up here. Met Denny Harper in the late 70s, worked with him, as he mentioned in the video, on setting up the referees for the San Diego State Club women's team at the time. When he approached me about helping out, he said, there's one thing, we don't have any money. And would you do it for nothing? Can you find some guys to do it for nothing? And we did. As I worked in those women's games, it was my first exposure to women's water polo. I'd seen a few people who were playing on high school teams. On the boys' teams, Sue Ortwine here played at Point Loma High School down in San Diego. I remember reffing Maureen O'Toole when she was at Wilson. But as I learned more about what was going on in women's water polo and the struggles that they were going through to gain respect and opportunities to build their programs, I became particularly supportive of their programs, because I thought they were just getting the short end of the stick. And that's when I got to know Sandy Nita much better than I had up to that point. I tried to work with her a lot to improve a lot of the women's programs. She and I shared this passion for Werner's ginger ale. It's hard to find, but if you can find it, try it. It's the best ginger ale on the planet. And I believe it was Sandy that nominated me to be standing up here today. So thank you to Sandy for that. It was mentioned I did a lot of administrative work. Barbara Calbus, Bert and Becky Shaw, and Ralph Hale all encouraged me to take on that kind of work, gave me the opportunities to contribute in that way. Sometimes people help you in little ways. In '81, the FINA Cup was being held at Long Beach State. And there was an off day on Wednesday, and they suddenly told us out of the blue, some of us who were there working the table and goal judging, that if we came back on Wednesday, we'd have a chance to get our FINA rankings, to be seen. It was done differently then than it is now, to be seen by the technical committee, get a ranking. I'm up there late at night. I'm going to have to go back down to San Diego for the night and come back up. And Brett Bernard says to me, "You don't have to do that. Why don't you just stay at my house?" Just a little thing that made a huge difference in my ability to keep growing in the game. Bob Korb, who you saw in the video, probably has become my best friend in water polo, going to conventions, working on referee development issues. And in 2011, when Barbara Calbus stepped down as the NCAA Secretary Rules Editor, he encouraged me to apply for that job, but it wasn't the right time for me. But then later, in 2020, when the person who took that job stepped down, Amber Drury, who is now the National Coordinator of Officials, she, in her subtle way, said, "I want you to apply for this." She gives me a call and she says, I just want you to know that Brian Streeter's stepping down, and just in case you're interested." That's Amber's way of telling you to apply for the thing. So a lot of people have helped in the sport, have helped me with my career in the sport. And then there's family. As Denny said, the most important thing of all. I've got a table full of Albersteins and other family members over here. I know some of you knew my wife, Kathy. You already heard Denny talk about her a little bit. That's an excellent story, by the way. I once commented at another event like this that being married to a sports official is not an easy thing to do. Probably similar being married to a coach. A lot of stuff happens on the weekends. My job required a lot of travel during the week. So I was gone a lot. I missed some things that you shouldn't miss. You shouldn't miss your wife's first Mother's Day, for example. But I did. I was a Pepperdine at a FINA Cup thing that I had to go to. She could have asked me to quit. She never did. Some of you may know that she passed away in 2020 from Alzheimer's, but I've been incredibly fortunate to have an old friend in my life now in a different relationship than it was when I first met her 40 years ago. Her daughters are here today, Karen Strong. She couldn't come today because she got sick a little bit back further about a week ago and couldn't travel. But I've been incredibly lucky to have her in my life at this time. And my daughter Jennifer, sitting over here. She used to tag along up to the pool sometimes. Brett used to take her into the water when she was really little and splash around with her. And Jamie Daly Hannon taught her how to swim, so she had really good teachers available. So thank you for all of you who contributed to what I was trying to do. It's been a long ride. I think I still got some gas in the tank. I turned 78 last month. I haven't lost my car keys too many times, so I think I'm going to keep doing this a little bit longer. I would urge all of you to keep giving back to the game. And I especially would urge you, if you have any interest at all, try reffing. You cannot. There's an old saying, you can start a game without a referee, it's impossible to finish one. You've got to have referees. They're part of the game, whether you're happy with them or not. We simply do not have enough referees, and that's why referees are out there doing 8, 9 games in a row with hardly any time to go to the bathroom that might be a quarter of a mile away now. We just don't have enough officials. I've talked with Lavonder Minjian a lot about ideas for getting more refs, and I'm willing to talk to anybody anytime about those. So again, congratulations to my fellow inductees. Thank you to USA Water Polo and to the Hall of Fame committee.